What's going on, babe? What are you doing over there?
I'm texting Julie Hoskin. She's actually asking about one of the episodes.
Oh, I was going to say, I think between you and I, if we ever expect to become super hosts, we've got a long way to go based on the state of this house right now.
Yeah, this looks pretty bad.
So we're about to start an episode where we're talking about Airbnbs, and we're going to shit talk a bunch of people, but look at how hypocritical we are.
But I'm not Airbnb-ing, okay? So it's not like I'm putting it up on an Airbnb.
Oh, I know. The renters are coming, hon. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
It'll be fine.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast. Welcome, Skiptown All-Star listeners. Is that how you normally start the show?
No.
How do you normally start the show? Because you do it so well. Go ahead, you start.
God. What's up, All Stars? Welcome to another amazing episode of Skiptown All Stars.
Yep.
All right, now you can go.
Hi, how are you?
That's it. That's your follow up.
All right. So we are here today to talk to you about something that we have mentioned in several of our podcasts, which is
Sweet romance.
no. We're here to talk about the difference, in our opinion, of hotels versus Airbnbs and why, when we are traveling on the road, we pick one over the other.
Or as I like to say, how not to get nut punched on your way to Tuscaloosa. Go on.
Okay. So we have mentioned several times our Airbnb experiences, and we've said on, again, other occasions, we're going to do an episode just about Airbnbs and hotels. What's the difference? What makes us decide which one we're going to do? Which one do we think you should do? So we're here to actually do that episode. Are you excited?
I am excited. You've been talking about doing this for a long time. So yeah, I'm pretty glad we're finally at a place where we have enough good and bad experiences to share.
Yeah. I would say that, honestly, we talked about this a little bit with our Yelp algorithm and how you're really good at picking out restaurants with the Yelp algorithm. I would say that you're also fairly good. I would not give you the same accolades that you have with restaurants as with Airbnbs, but there are always caveats involved as to why you pick the Airbnbs that you do. But we both collectively will decide whether or not we're going to do an Airbnb or a hotel on our adventure. And then you will usually be the one to pick the Airbnb. I would say
I need to respond to that.
Respond to what?
That accusation.
No, you don't need to respond because
I do.
It's accurate.
No, that my Airbnb is not as good as my Yelp algorithm.
Okay, what do you want to say about it?
I'd say you might be right. In this case.
Wait, say that again. Wait, say that again.
I said what I said.
No, say that. I want to hear it again.
I said what I said.
That was hard to spit out, wasn't it?
No, it's true. We had a couple bad places that we stayed at. Roswell, as humorous as it was for all of our listeners, that one.
That stung.
That's the premier Airbnb snafu right there.
It's okay. I mean, I am not great at picking out restaurants. I've been pretty good at Airbnbs, but I've had my fair share of fails on restaurants. So I think we're even. You've had a few fails on Airbnbs. I've had some fails on restaurants. I think we're okay. Okay, let's get right into what makes us decide whether or not we're going to pick a hotel or an Airbnb for our stay. Some stays are 3 days in a certain location. Some stays are 24 hours. So why don't you tell everyone like kind of what we talk about when we're in the car?
Okay. So, well, first off, the one thing we talk about and that we found out throughout the course of our travels is that if you're staying anywhere for less than 2 nights, you're a dope if you book something on Airbnb, unless it's a weekend getaway and you found a really killer spot.
And you want to do something special for your lady friend.
Or have a party, which a lot of places don't allow you to do. But if you're going to split a, say, $700 Airbnb in Tuscaloosa the night before the game with 4 of your friends, that's a pretty good deal, right?
Yes.
So,
agreed. Or if you're going to do a beach house for a weekend with another couple, then yes. But why would you be a dope otherwise?
because you get drummed with taxes, cleaning fees, other fees. I forget all the fees.
How about the Airbnb fee?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
all kinds of fees on
different.
Airbnb.
Like Airbnb has its own fee. Then you have the cleaning fee, and then you have taxes. So you have 3.
I said fees, multiple.
Okay,
So classify them however you want.
Okay.
But the bottom line being, you're paying at least $100 over what you would pay at a hotel. If you're just traveling through somewhere like we did with Plenty of Cities, I would say it's really not economical to get an Airbnb unless it's like one of those mountainside camper retreats or something like that. That's, you know, pretty fairly priced, and you know you're still going to pay a few fees, but you just want to wake up and see the tops of pine trees in the morning. Then it's kind of worth it. I mean, each place has its own nuance, but the one thing I will say is that I definitely found that I just never realized before, because whenever we did a weekend getaway, you just thought you were going to plan. You were just planning on spending that money anyway, right? But when you're in the middle of a road trip, that stuff starts to add up quickly, and that's like one less experience you get to enjoy because you're getting drummed on these little fees. So my advice for the roadie is, if you're going to go to like multiple places in multiple states or cities or whatever, and you're only going to stay a day here, a day there, just, you know, find a little boutique hotel or something like that. It's going to be less money, still have a little bit of charm than staying at a Holiday Inn Express or whatever. And, you know,
but for
somebody
us,
picked up along the way.
We ended up staying at a lot of Holiday Inn Expresses. So that's not totally like, you know, accurate on our travel, because we did stay in a lot of corporate hotels. And from my experience,
yeah, I'm saying if you want a special, like, what do you mean that's not like? I'm saying if you want something with a little character, stay in a boutique rather than an Airbnb if you're only going to stay there for a day or two.
Yeah,
that was my point.
We found that for us, we didn't even stay in boutique hotels in our travels.
We have a dog,
right,
and we were shooting a podcast. So it helped to have the extra space of a Residence Inn or a Home 2 or whatever the hell it's called.
Okay, so
but I'm just talking like, if it just like, most of our listeners are just planning a road trip. So if it's just the 2 of them or 3 of them or whatever it is, and you get a couple queen beds in an Airbnb, like you're like, okay, we don't want to stay at corporate-y hotels per se.
Okay. But okay. And then we could talk about that. Why? Like, so the difference between a corporate hotel and a boutique hotel. Okay. We're talking about hotels right now. So you're talking about a boutique hotel if you're going for a weekend and you want to do something special. When would you go to a corporate hotel? That's my question. Like, for you.
I didn't say that though. I said, if you want places with character, no matter how you're traveling. I'm saying if you're on a road trip and you want places with character, so you're stopping at 6 cities doing a road trip.
Yeah.
You can find cool boutique-y sort of bed and breakfasts or boutique-y hotels to stay in those 6 cities almost inevitably, if you don't want to, and you're going to pay $100 less a night than if you just stay in one Airbnb. Oh, this Airbnb is cool. Yeah, great. But when you finally add up all the fees, number one, we may not be the only ones staying in this place, which we'll get to. And number two, now we're paying all these fees. It's $150 more than, you know, the Cottage Inn or whatever the hell it is in a local town. So I'm just saying, for like discerning guests, if you really want something that's still with character and you want to avoid a corporate-y hotel, it's possible to do that and still, you know, you'll still get a bit of character in that stuff as if you were staying in an Airbnb in your own space.
That's true. I would say that that's absolutely true for Santa Fe. We ended up staying in a local hotel, and it was cute as can be, beautiful, cute little courtyard, and it was adobe, like, I don't even know what it was, because it wasn't a hotel. It was like adobe houses that we got to ourselves, and we were there for about 5 days. But here's the difference that I have recognized while being on the road. Boutique hotels are great. You get a very much a feel of where you are. Usually someone local is working the front desk, but you don't get like a washer and dryer on premises a lot, and you don't get a breakfast in the morning. Now, breakfast in the morning may not be important for some people. It's not necessarily important for me. James loves like going down, getting some coffee, and if they have some fruit, he'll do that. So for him, he enjoys the free breakfast. I don't get up early enough to partake in the breakfast, truth be told. So breakfast ends at 9 usually, and I'm just still in bed. So with that being said, you're going to get a feel of the area and be in a really cute boutique hotel, but you may not have the amenities that a corporate hotel has, which if you're like us and you're on the road for some period of time, you may want to once in a while go to a corporate hotel. So even in our travels, we did spend evenings in local hotels, but we also spent quite a few evenings in corporate hotels. That being, like James said, like a home away, which allows a dog. We've done a Hilton, we've done a Marriott. I don't think we've done. Oh, we did a Hyatt. So we've done the major. We've done Holiday Inn Express even. And what we've gotten from those are breakfast in the morning, washer and dryer, and generally like a pretty decent area to park your car, really well lit parking lots. And the rooms are generally pretty darn spacious.
Yeah.
So, you can poo-poo corporate hotels because they all look the same, but guess what? That really appeals to a lot of people. And it really did appeal to us too, because while we were on the road, we would say things to each other like, oh, okay, there's a home away here. We've been there before. We know what it looks like. And as much as like, you're going to bash, oh, they're all the same. That's what appealed to us. Like we knew what we were getting. We were going to get a kitchen. We were going to get a sitting area, and we were going to get like a really, big bathroom. And so, as boring as a corporate hotel can be in the terms of like aesthetics, and it doesn't have a lot of character, and the travelers are coming and going, and you don't really get a feel for the locals, there is something to be said about the space you get and the consistency of the hotel. Check-in is really super easy. They have a breakfast. They have, like I said, a well-lit parking lot. So for us, when we did hotels, I would say 70% of our hotels were corporate-based hotels.
But a lot of that was driven by the fact that we were traveling with a pet.
It's true.
And a lot of the bed and breakfasts or smaller hotels
Didn't allow a
will
pet.
not allow pets.
Yes.
So, or if they did, they were super junky places.
Okay, that is true. So if you're not traveling,
that was a huge factor in a lot of the places we picked.
Agreed, because we both agree that if we weren't traveling with Roxy, our first choice would always be a boutique hotel. And we did that. Like the very first hotel that we got in Santa Rosa was a cute little art hotel. I mean, that was adorable.
Yeah,
that
the art house.
Yeah, it wasn't corporate at all. Super cute. The two hotels in Washington weren't corporate.
And that room was
cute.
Massive. It was the biggest hotel room we stayed in the entire run.
It was like 1,000 square feet. I swear it was so big.
It was big.
So all of that to say, he is correct. And I said that he is correct. We normally would stay in a boutique hotel when we're sans dog.
Yeah,
So-
we wouldn't. There are a lot of places we picked that we would not have picked if we
but
didn't
still,
have the dog.
like when I look back on it, like all those hotels were just fine, and they accommodated our
course.
dog, and you got your free breakfast. So I was totally fine with those.
I know, but let's be clear. Like those breakfasts are nothing. Like that's not the driving force.
No,
of
it's
me.
not,
Like
but you
those
look,
things,
okay.
those breakfasts are nothing to like right on. Like
I know.
in fact,
but,
the only time I ever drank coffee at one of those places was.
oh, that's thunder.
Is that thunder?
Yeah.
Wow. The only time I got coffee at those places was when I had to get in a car and drive, X amount of miles to find a cup of coffee somewhere else.
Yes, but the point is that you could go down there and get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's a nice
And you
benefit,
did.
and plenty of people take, but
You did it more than once.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had no choice. I mean,
Okay,
it's
but
not like we were like in Vancouver, I could walk the dog and get a cup of coffee. We were staying right on the pier. There were 100 little
Yeah,
restaurants.
but I know there are some areas that are harder to find a coffee
Yeah, I mean,
shop than
Sedona,
others.
we were on the very edge of town.
Yeah.
It's spread out in one big strip anyway. And after the second morning there, I was like, I'm not getting in the car to drive to like mediocre coffee. So yeah, the third morning I drank the hotel swill.
Okay, so here's my question, because you seem to be negating like everything I'm saying right now. So here's my question to you. If you had to pick between an Airbnb or a corporate hotel with a mediocre breakfast, what would you pick for
I
one
would
night?
pick for one night.
Yeah.
It's clear what I would pick. I mean, look at our transactions. We pick corporate hotels
Okay.
almost every single time. But I'm just saying the driving force behind that was one of two factors. Either we didn't want to, the Airbnbs were so overpriced with the fees for one night to stay in that particular area,
Mhm.
or we were just passing through and we felt like doing some laundry. Like, I definitely agree with that. Like, there were places we stayed at where it was like, oh, you can do laundry here.
Mhm. And not having to go to laundromat for the past 20 years, laundry is quite expensive.
It is.
So we obviously did laundry at several hotels we were in when we were not at an Airbnb that had a washer and dryer. And boy, was it expensive. I think it was like one place was $4 for a load to wash and $2 to dry. So I was just like, going through quarters like crazy.
Yeah, it was like $6 a load most of the time, right?
Yeah, something like that. Santa Fe was definitely cheaper at that hotel. But so let's go back to why we do what we do. So you had said that if it's going to be one night, we generally always picked a hotel because the fees for a one night in an Airbnb, was just way too expensive to do a one night.
Most of the time. I would say definitely in most big cities,
Mm-hmm.
the Seattles, the Salt Lakes, the
Sedona's.
Yeah.
Sedona's not a big city, but it's a popular destination.
Yeah, I mean, those Airbnbs were astronomical.
They were.
I think we stayed there, 2 days, something like that, 3?
3.
Yeah. But man, in terms of being able to shoot a podcast, that particular place we stayed at was magnificent.
In Sedona?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really big.
It was good for what it was. I mean, what was it? A Residence Inn by Marriott or something like that?
Something like that. It had a nice sitting room, a kitchen, like a full kitchen with a stove.
Yeah.
The bedroom area was decent sized. The bathroom was big. It was a good place.
Yeah.
So when we go for one night, we will generally pick a hotel over an Airbnb because of the fees.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to go 2 nights, that's a little tricky.
That's the gray area.
It is the gray area. Okay. So I think, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. It's generally, we base it on location and what our next destination is and what we want to do in our next destination. So that will give us an idea of, do we want to like bite the bullet and spend money on this Airbnb? Or do we want to just stay in a hotel, a corporate hotel or a regular hotel and save $100 a night? So if we're traveling to a really great destination that we're headed to and we're halfway and we're stopping, my thought generally is let's just stay at an average hotel because we're on our way to a great destination. Like for us, Waco was a cool destination we had been talking about.
Yeah.
So we knew we were going to stay there.
That's a great example.
And we knew that we wanted to really partake in like the city and be there for a few days. So if we're going to stop halfway before we get to Waco and stay somewhere, it's not going to be an expensive hotel because we really want to spend our money in Waco. But so at that point, we will not stay at an Airbnb for 2 nights. We will stay at a moderately priced hotel for 2 nights. And then we'll like spend our money in Waco. Now, if the destination is quite far and it takes a couple of overnights to get us there, sometimes we will stay in a nice hotel or an Airbnb if we've done 2 stops that were just mediocre. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would say, especially the pendulum swings when so we had that really not great stay in Oregon when we were taking Ellie up, and then we ended up staying at the St. Edward's Lodge, which was, I mean, I can't. It was expensive, but it was so worth it. Just being on the property and everything. So yeah, I would say when we have to make those tough choices, and as a couple, again, going back to like, we stayed at plenty of places which would not have been our first choice. Because we had a pet, because, we had the gear, we couldn't stay, I couldn't do street parking because I had equipment in my car. So,
cool hotels we would have normally stayed at that maybe had street parking.
Or even Airbnbs. Remember, I had to cancel, like when we were back in LA, I had to cancel the Airbnb in Seattle.
Yeah. Because
remember
of
that? Yeah. Because the parking situation was an issue. Well, there's plenty of street parking. I'm like, okay, great. Well, I'm not lugging my gear up every day. So, all that said, I would say we stayed at places we would not necessarily have stayed. I think our next road trip, are we taking it with the dog?
I think so.
Oh, well then never mind. It's going to be all the same.
But my point is that like if we're traveling for 2 days, let's get back on that. If we're traveling for 2 days and it takes 3 days, like it's almost 3 days to get to the really big destination that we want to get to. And my experience with you is that like those 2 days, it just sort of depends. Like sometimes we'll stay at a really nice place one of the days and the other days we'll slum it. In a nice place, it would still be a hotel. We hardly ever did an overnight at an Airbnb. Airbnbs, even if it was 2 nights, like we're in the gray area of 2 nights and we're traveling to a destination and it's going to take us a few days to get to that destination. On this trip, we still stayed at hotels most of the time, although there were a few Airbnbs you threw in there for 2-night stays. But from my recollection, it was only because we've been staying in mediocre hotels.
Yeah, definitely.
So we, treated ourselves
after
like
1 or 2 stay. Yeah, I agree. There was definitely a reward factor. I'd say all in all, I mean, if I really had to sum up from a cost standpoint, what I wanted to do everywhere we stayed was just average it out to $200 to $250 a night for the entire trip. So if you add it up, and I think I went over that. I mean, honestly, I think I was more in the 250 to 300 range.
Okay.
Believe it or not. But,
and I know that sounds really, really expensive. Like, oh my gosh.
It does.
And it is expensive, but you also have to think about like, I don't know, like if you have an RV, you paid a ton of money for this RV. The RVs start at like $150,000. And you're paying an overnight at the RV park. Chances are, if you averaged out your stay with an RV, you're probably averaging the cost that you paid for it and the rental of the space in the RV park somewhere around $150 to $200 maybe. Obviously, if you're camping, it's a completely different story. If you only have a limited amount of money and you're in a minivan and you're doing the van life thing and you're only staying at like Motel 8s. Is it Motel 8 or Motel 6?
Motel 6.
Okay. Well, you're staying at a Motel. It's Super 8.
Super 8.
Okay. So if you're staying at like that type of hotel, that's a different trip. I mean, that's a completely different trip. We're not talking about that. We're talking about experiences. So
it's a different show too. I mean,
100%.
We're not the podcasters you should be listening to if you want that sort of rough and tumble adventure.
That's not the type of trip that we wanted to do. And we talked about this from the very first episode, that like we wanted a cool experience in our travels. So yes, 200 to 250 sounds like a lot of money, and it sounds like a lot of money because it is a lot of money, but we also there were things that paid off for us, meaning that, outside of like Seattle, which was very difficult for the dog, most of the time, there was a really nice area for the dog to walk around in and go to the bathroom. Usually those hotels have those kinds of areas nearby that you can walk to. Again, parking lots were very lit. We know what we're getting when we walk in the door. So for us personally, it was worth the money because it was a peace of mind. Also, when you're spending that kind of money on an Airbnb, you generally know what you're getting. It is the same as a hotel.
It kind of is, yeah.
So if you do the algorithm right, meaning if you know what to look for, you're going to get a really good experience for your money. So why don't you talk about like what you do with Airbnbs? Because you do. I mean, look, you've had a couple of misses, but you generally have a really good you've had a really good like stretch overall. So,
I did
like,
better toward the end for
and
sure.
then you do have a cap. Like you'll say to me, like there have been times when we were traveling where I'll say, "Oh, why didn't you get this one?" And he will have said, "Oh, well, I looked in the area and there's no way I'm going to spend $160 because this area really owes only $125 area."
Yeah.
And so explain like when we decide to do an Airbnb, it's generally if we're doing a 3-night stay.
Yeah.
Although we did talk about treating ourselves if we're going to do a 2-night stay, and that's only if we've like stayed at like mediocre hotels along the way or just had really long, like just, I don't know, we're just tired and we want to stay in a place where we can do our laundry that's easy. Because there's, laundry right in the house. So let's talk about like, this is a good one, Louisville, Kentucky. Why did you pick an Airbnb for that? Because it kind of coincides with what I'm saying right now, but I want you to reiterate why you picked an Airbnb.
I picked that particular Airbnb.
Or just,
why
did
did I pick an Airbnb for
and not a
Louisville?
hotel? Yeah.
Because we were there 3 or 4 days. So that was kind of an easy
we were
decision.
there 5 days and 4 nights.
Yeah. So that was kind of an easy decision. I didn't know. I picked also an Airbnb because I didn't know if Ellie was traveling for volleyball. I didn't know if she was allowed to stay with us or what. Like we didn't know the team rules. She's a freshman. We have no idea. And so I wanted to make sure that that place, I think actually, did that place have a fold out? I don't know. It had a couch that I could crash on if she wanted to stay, and she could have slept with you. But the biggest reason I picked it was because A, it was affordable. B, all of the reviews said that it had been upgraded recently. And C, it was right near the University of Louisville campus. So I thought that particular location would be a good indicator for us looking ahead to real estate and investment properties and all that other stuff. Like this would be an area that we would probably have our bullseye on if we wanted to buy something in Louisville, Kentucky one day. So
when it's over a 3-day, over a 2-day stay, we always generally look at Airbnbs
we
first.
do. Yeah, we
first.
definitely do.
Okay. But then there have been times like when we were in Sedona, it didn't work out. We were there for 3 days. I think we were there 3 nights, 4 days, and we couldn't get an Airbnb because it was astronomical.
Yeah, it was insane.
So generally you looked at an Airbnb first because you knew we were going to be there for 4 nights and 5 days. And then when you saw the prices, my guess is because I didn't do anything with Louisville. So, I literally just showed up. So you did all the work. Like you looked at the hotels, Airbnbs. So generally, were the Airbnbs
I really didn't even look at hotels. There were plenty of Airbnbs to choose from.
Okay.
So I just happened to pick this one because everybody said, in the reviews, it had been redone. I would say, it was a little overpriced for what we got. There was, they still need to do some upgrades. Let's just say it like that.
Okay,
the upgrades they did were cheap,
What makes you decide to stay at an Airbnb? What do you look at in the reviews? Talk about that. And how many reviews do they have to have? All of that.
Definitely more than 5.
Okay.
10. Probably somewhere in that range. If it's got more than 10 reviews, then I would say that's a pretty good indicator. Frankly, I used to look to see if they're super hosts. I think that term is so overused and I think it's bullshit.
Okay. Why? Explain. Because we can definitely go into that. So tell me what is a super host to begin with?
I think somebody can be a super host if they own 2 or 3 great properties and 3 really crappy ones.
Okay. So, I actually thought I really thought the definition of a superhost on Airbnb had nothing to do with how many properties they owned. I really thought it was someone who hosted very well. Am I wrong?
It's numbers. I believe it's numbers. It's like people have hosted, they've gotten enough good reviews on their properties.
Okay. But you're saying a superhost has to have more than one property. But that's not
the
case.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all.
You said they have to have properties.
No, I didn't. I said a lot of superhosts that I've encountered along this trip have had multiple properties. They have some really good ones and they have some really bad ones. I didn't say it was mandatory.
Okay. So it's not mandatory. So a superhost is basically someone that has over, I think it's got to be over
it's
like
X amount of
reviews,
positive
right?
reviews. Yeah.
It's got to be like over
whatever
15.
their rule is. I don't know. You may know. I don't know what
Let's
makes
look it up.
I don't know what makes them super hosts. What
Okay,
makes them
because
a super
I
host?
think it's got to be over 15 reviews, but we've stayed at plenty of places where someone was listed as a super host and it wasn't a super experience. So, back in the day, like just even a couple years ago, if someone was listed as a super host, you could very well anticipate walking into the house and it looking exactly like the pictures and it being a really great experience. And you could have like a basket of candy or maybe like some fresh, flowers there or bottled water. Like that was always what the definition
Yeah, it was
of
a
super.
quality hosting experience.
Okay, that has
Okay,
not
ready?
been our experience.
Here's what makes them maintain a response rate of 90% or higher, maintain a cancellation rate of 1% or less, allowing for exceptions that fall under Airbnb's extenuating circumstances, maintain a 4.8 overall rating, complete a minimum of 10 trips or 3 reservations totaling over 100 nights. So basically, all
10
you have to
trips or
do,
three- Okay, so
all you
wait.
have to do is stay in the game and get some good reviews.
So how many does it reviews? It says 100 nights. That's a lot.
Complete a minimum of 10 trips or 3 reservations.
3 reservations
Total-
is nothing.
100 nights.
3 reservations is nothing.
100 nights is a lot.
But they're saying 10 trips or 3
Those are the minimums.
reservations. Or 3 reservations.
Yeah, so you can't just have one person come and stay for 100 nights and give you a super host rating.
100 nights? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
No way. There's this like
So that's what I'm saying. It's the super host
no.
category plays into those who have multiple properties. So if I have 2 pristine properties that, continually, and then I have like 2 other properties at a different price point and they all continually give like different price point. Like somebody will come in and, not have huge expectations and be like, yeah, this place is, a 555, or my friend stayed here. Or like, look at Roswell. I mean, they had an incredible rating. We were the only ones who kind of squawked a little bit, and I didn't even like really get after them on my review. And then later on, one of our listeners, Stacy, came to us and said, hey, by the way, they have multiple properties. So that's why their rating was so good. It's because they now, no joke, they had like almost every single rating on the property on the Roswell house that we stayed in with the printed crap all over the walls that, scared the shit out of you.
The double house.
Yes. That place alone was part of a bigger renting franchise that these super hosts had. So it could be that we stayed in the worst of their properties. You understood? But they had like 100 nights worth of people staying there.
Got it.
So they got their superhost rating. They had a minimum of 3 guests. They had tons of guests.
But you have to have a 4.8 and above. So it wasn't just, so they still had to maintain that. It's odd because hearing that makes it very odd for me to wrap my head around how some of the places we've stayed in, they're super hosts. And okay, I know what you're saying. Okay, the 100 nights, the 3 reservations, whatever.
It's a numbers game.
No,
it has.
But you still have to have a 4.8.
You do
still.
But you also, if you market correctly to the right people, you can market a crappy place at a great price point, and 4 guys come in there, kill a case of beer one night, and leave the next day, and they're like, "She was great. She left us the hell alone." That's a 5.0. So that's one rating. I'm just saying,
Okay, so
if you target your price point to the actual clientele who's going to stay in your Airbnb, you can get that 4.8 rating.
Okay, you could be right. So here's my question then. For travelers like us who aren't killing a case of beer and just want to be left alone, but we actually want to have a nice, peaceful experience.
You got to look at the photos for starters.
And do you think price point makes a difference?
I definitely think price point makes a difference. The reason we stumbled and failed in Roswell was because it was only $80 for the night.
Okay. So where do you draw the line? Like, where do you say in your head, ooh, like that's too little. Like we're going to get a Roach motel. Like what do you do? Cause I know what I do. I have a number. What is your number?
Oh, my number is probably 150 a night.
Okay. That's my number, but I've gotten really great places for 139.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like that townhouse in Utah was 139 and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was huge.
You actually told the guy to raise his prices.
I did tell him to raise his prices.
Okay,
because
so that's a
he
case
gets-
in point.
He gets crappy renters, and then they make it bad for good renters.
Yeah, the second time we stayed there, which was, I guess our last episode when we interviewed the girls, the second time we stayed there, we noticed changes already in there. There were burn marks on the kitchen table.
Mhm.
Now all of a sudden there was a pet basket and a big note to clean up after your dog. So he'd obviously had people staying in there. They obviously
The rug
had people
was
stay-
gone. Remember the area?
The rug
you
was
noticed
gone.
that. I didn't even notice
it was like somebody had an animal that they didn't clean up after.
and they were disrespectful with the furniture.
Yeah. And kids burnt crayons on the table or whatever the hell happened there. I have no idea what happened there. They dropped their crack pipe. I have no idea. But
Could be.
That-
Because Utah has problems. We talked about that in one of our episodes that Utah has problems with their crime.
everyone,
it could
everywhere has problems.
Could be a crack pipe.
Um,
Okay, so go ahead.
But yeah, he's a great case in point. I mean, it kind of is surprising that some people can keep a 4.8 because the anecdote he told you was that he had somebody ding him in the ratings because they threw a party that they weren't allowed to throw in his house, and he didn't have enough toilet paper to accommodate the 30 people they had in his house.
That is true. And they
So,
give him a bad rating because of it.
It does. I mean, it is hard. I guess I shouldn't say it's easy to keep a 4.8, but I'm saying if you're smart and you are responsive, it says, you got a 90% response rate, which means every time somebody says, "Oh, we clogged the toilet," then you at least reply to them and say, "Oh, okay, there's a plunger in the thing," or whatever. And if it's not working in the morning, just, don't flush it again. Just let me know and blah, blah, blah. And,
So when you say that the photos are helpful, have you gotten an Airbnb with us yet ever where it didn't look like the photos?
yeah, Roswell.
Oh, didn't
There
look like
are
the photos?
photos. There are photos, but it was made to look more like your classic farmhouse than when
Oh.
we walked in.
okay.
It was not. They called it an adobe. It wasn't an adobe.
No, it was just a track home.
It was.
It was a track home.
It was a pole barn. Okay, that's what it was.
What is that?
It's a farm term.
What does that mean?
All my Midwestern friends will know what that means. It's basically poles with plywood painted, and you park a tractor inside. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't a far cry. I mean, it had the
You're right.
it had the
That's what it
saltillo tile, and then it just had a bunch of like ancient furniture,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, there was supposed to be some sort of allure there or whatever, but really in the end, it was like, oh my gosh, like how old are these sheets we're
so-
sleeping on?
Totally.
But
besides that, Roswell, has there ever been another Airbnb where you looked at the photos and we got there, you're like, oh, this was not what?
West Seattle. Yeah. It did not, it was not represent. Okay. So this
Wait.
gets into one of my other beefs. We had that downstairs, which I knew it was downstairs apartment.
That was a basement apartment. When they say basement apartment, hun, it's a basement apartment. Well, I don't know what
Yeah.
you were expecting.
No. I knew it was a basement apartment. What I didn't know was how small it was. Like, it was pretty small for the price that we paid.
Basement apartments are always small. So that I knew.
I guess, but I'm saying you would expect it to be the footprint of the house. And it felt like there wasn't somebody on the other side of the basement from us. It wasn't like two basement apartments, but it felt like it. It was really small.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's basement apartment. So
that-
I know it was exactly what it should have been.
Okay. We agree to disagree.
Okay. So
But
that
the
was
dog had a yard and,
so it was smaller than you anticipated.
yeah,
Okay.
it didn't reflect the photos at all.
Oh,
So-
that's different.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really didn't feel like when we got there, I was like, huh,
Okay.
you
All right.
But at that point, we had spent an astronomical amount of money at St. Edward's Lodge. And then what was the name of the hotel we stayed at in the city? I forget the name of
I
it.
want to say the Thompson, but it wasn't the Thompson. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a boutique hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it. It's been so long.
It's
been
back
like-
in the Seattle
yeah,
episode. Go
been
listen
forever.
to it.
But the thing with that, okay, so then when you think about Airbnbs and what you're getting, okay, so, and this is common in so many, just like anything in life, like you're going to get something, but you're not going to get everything. So let's use the West Seattle. It was small, but there was a huge backyard. We
Yeah.
had a washer and dryer, and the neighborhood was fantastic. Like
It was.
we walked around the entire neighborhood. We went to the local bar at the corner and had dinner. I mean,
Yeah.
we went and had smoothies at the vegan place down this, like the vegan smoothie place, because it's Seattle and they have vegans everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, so what we gave up in space, we gathered or gained, what we gave up in space, we gained in like, what's the word?
Comfort,
Just like aesthetics. We gained in aesthetics. Like everything around us was nice to look at and easy to get to.
Yeah, I didn't have to take the dog 6 flights down on the hotel elevator anymore to go to the bathroom. She had a yard. She was really happy, and in the morning I could just like open the door, let her out, and then she'd come back in,
Yeah.
And so that had its advantages. The parking sucked there, but the description of the place warned us like the parking sucks.
It didn't though.
We had a space, but you had to share it with the other person.
No, but the street parking was always very good. We got so lucky.
It was fine, but
we always parked in the
they
front.
said the driveway will fit 2 cars, and it would, but you had to have somebody really conscientious staying in the upper Airbnb to be able to get both cars in the driveway.
Yeah, that wasn't accurate at all. But the street parking,
I was still schlepping gear, which is, in that, to that end, we could have stayed at the condo back in the city that I canceled way back when. So it was an okay decision. I'm glad we got out of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to also get out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there was a great neighborhood, a couple really great coffee shops there.
Yeah, we walked around. We walked everywhere.
Yeah. And it did feel like a little bit of decompression. Like Ellie was already settled at school,
Mm-hmm.
and we were still there in the city, but it felt like we were actually prepping. We had to shoot an episode, but we were prepping to begin our actual journey at that point.
Yeah.
So that felt good to have a little bit of space. And it was a cool part of town, no lie. It was good. West Seattle's cool. I hope they open up the bridge and it doesn't take you 45 minutes to get there anymore.
Yeah.
There was a closed bridge that really was cumbersome to, get back into the city.
One of the things too that I think we both do when looking for Airbnbs is that sometimes we'll go further out of the city. So I'm going to use Salt Lake City for an example. We were staying for both visits, because we've been there twice now. Both visits were for minimum of 3 days, minimum. And so we knew that we were going to stay at an Airbnb. Looking at Airbnbs in the city, because I wanted to be close to the university, it was very, very expensive. I mean, I thought it was like $200 a night with fees and everything else. It came out to like $260. We could have bit the bullet and paid it and be closer to Mia. But then what that would have meant was that we would have had to like maybe cut back on something else. And we knew that being with her, we wanted to have a little more freedom with our money. And like, if she wanted to go to a restaurant that she really liked, we didn't want to have to like worry about like, oh, how expensive is this? So I decided to stay 30 minutes outside the city. And that's where we stayed at that fabulous townhouse for like $139 a night.
Yeah.
And you know what? It ended up being just fine because it was only, I say it was 30 minutes outside the city, but in essence, I think
no, it's 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute drive.
Quick. And some days it took 20 minutes. If there was traffic, it took 30. But it was an easy drive. We hardly ever hit traffic, and saving that that $100 a night, which was for a 3-night stay, obviously $300. Like we used it like for other fun things. So sometimes I'll look at that and I'll think to myself when I'm picking out an Airbnb for our travels, like, what's the most important thing here? If it's comfort and we just want to have a comfortable night's sleep and a comfortable next day experience, then we'll go more expensive on the Airbnbs. Again, it's got to be about a 3-night minimum stay. 2 nights a gray area, but usually it's a 3-night for us to pick an Airbnb. But if we want to spend more money like in the city, we'll definitely go a little further out and pay a little bit less, sometimes a lot less, $100. And that does require us to drive a little bit more. But neither one of us really, we don't care. Like we're fine with it because we know that money that we saved is going to be spent in that city.
Yeah.
Now, when I am looking at Airbnbs, I don't even care about a superhost anymore because we've gotten boned so many times. There have been superhosts on our adventures during this cross country trip that have legitimately been amazing superhosts. I mean, have the little goodie basket when we get there. The sheets are so soft. They have Aveda hair care products in the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh, like really, really fantastic. And then we've had superhosts that didn't even have a bar of soap. And I'm not lying. Like he had to go out and get like soap for us that they didn't even have a bar of soap. And I would say to him, are they listed as a superhost? Like this is insane. And he would say they are. So what used to once be a filter for me, meaning like I would look to see if it was a superhost, I completely disregard now. Do you as well?
Yeah, I said that already. I mean, I don't look at it at all.
Okay, so you really don't.
No.
Okay, so I don't
I
either.
could care less.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at Airbnbs, I generally do pretty much the same thing he does. I'll look at the photos. I do, of course.
Well, I was going to ask you though, how like so.
I'm really.
I already
picky,
know
though.
my number, but do you read reviews, and how many do you read?
Oh yeah, of course I read reviews, and I go about 5 in. Like I'll go back. Like if we're in the month of September, I'll go back to August. It depends. Like it depends on how many weeks the person was there. Cause sometimes it could just be 5 reviews. Sometimes it could be 7 reviews. I'll go like a month back, but usually, I don't know, it's like 5 to 7 reviews. But for me, I always look for a comfy couch. Always.
That's true. You do. We discounted a lot of, where did we go?
Oh, tons of places.
Where did we go recently? You were like, no, they don't have a comfy couch. We stayed.
No, because we stayed in a hotel.
There was one city we stayed
I know
in the
what
same
you're
hotel.
saying because it's been very recent, but I just cannot remember it. But yes, for me, it's a comfy couch. Like here's what's crazy to me. Oh, we're going to LA at Christmas.
That's what it was. Okay.
We're looking for houses in LA and it's a joke.
We've looked for so many.
Total joke. Somebody will throw in a love seat and they want to charge in LA $450 for a love seat and a little TV in a living room.
Yeah. And they'll say it sleeps 6 and it will, but when they're not in bed, they have nowhere to sit.
Yeah. So we had this problem when we went to Colorado right after like 2021. So this isn't part of our Skiptown All-Stars experience, but James and I went to Colorado with my 2 brothers to visit my mom. Mm-hmm. And I rented a townhouse for us. I knew that the townhouse, it slept 12 people. That's what it said. The couch only fit 3.
Yeah.
So, look, I knew that. I saw the couch on there and I knew that it only sat 3 people. I did still bitch about it though. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, you can't rent a place, and that place wasn't cheap. You can't rent a place that sleeps 12, but only comfortably sits 3 at the TV. Like, people on Airbnb have gotten so greedy. So now if I cannot find a place that is really worth like what an Airbnb should be, when I say worth it, it's like, you're renting a house. So furnish it like you would your own home, or don't put it on Airbnb. Like, to me, it's insane. I said to James, who is renting these homes with a love seat? Like, I don't understand it. And they're still expensive. So like for our trip coming up in LA, we're probably going to have to stay in a hotel because I refuse to rent a place for $400 a night, which is astronomical, without a couch that seats at least 4 people. Like, have a couch, have a love seat, have an ottoman. Like, it's
if
obscene.
You're advertising for 6 people, you should be able to sit 6 people in that place.
Yeah. So for me, when I'm looking at Airbnbs, I look at price. Like, my price is usually $150 as well a night, because I know with fees it's going to go up to like $175. So I start around $150. Then the next thing I look at is the couch. I look at the furniture in the living room because we're going to be there for 3 days. And I know he's going to be on the couch watching TV. So it has to be, 1, a couch that he can fit on because he's tall. And 2, is it going to be comfy? Like, does it look like a piece of crap they got from a secondhand store, which a lot of them do?
Yeah, there's tons of that.
Something has happened with Airbnb. And it's, LA is the worst right now because since we've traveled the country, we've seen really phenomenal Airbnbs. We've seen a few bad ones, But in my research, LA is actually the worst. And they just think, well, you're coming to LA, you have
Yeah,
money,
I mean,
so they gouge you.
they're already gouging
Yeah,
for
for
the
sure.
holidays kind of thing. They know they can get you if you're wanting to. A lot of people have Christmas break. They want to go to the West Coast for Christmas or whatever, go to nicer weather or visit their kids, or a lot of kids go to school in Southern California. Maybe the family wants to come see them.
I know, but James, I don't think it's price gouging. Like I've talked to you about this when we were looking. I said I put dates in different times to see if the price changed. It didn't. Like these people are just greedy. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of probably more city Airbnbs, like, destinations that are popular, like a New York, like an LA, like a Miami, like a Chicago. I mean, that place you rented in Chicago was dumb and it was not worth the money. And yes, it slept 12 people again. In Chicago, it was 2, 4, 6.
I remember we would take the cushions
10.
off the couch so
10.
we could all sit down.
Yeah, and it had a couch. It slept 10 and had a couch that sat 3. Like, so I think in the bigger cities, people just start taking advantage. But you're so stuck because when we left Chicago, for instance, I said to James, it was a waste of money, that Airbnb. And he said, what would you rather have done? And I said, get 2 hotel rooms. Like that seats 2, 4, 6, 8. If you get 2 queen beds, it's 8 people. Yes, you're all 8 people are sharing 2 bathrooms. We were sharing 2 bathrooms.
Yeah,
in
but
that
it never
house.
would have worked in that particular trip because we had friends coming. But
it's true, but like it wasn't worth it. And so that's what we're finding. Like Airbnb used to be like the luxury experience. I mean, really, it was. It was like you're going to go to someone's house. You're going to get a feel of the place. You're going to like be nice and cozy. It's not like that anymore. And
no, it's definitely like lost its luster for sure. My biggest squawk about Airbnb is you can check a box that says we want the entire place to ourselves. And I just ditched a place in Encino for the holidays because I asked them, I said, hey, this says it's all to ourselves, but is like there was a red
flag somewhere.
I saw 2 driveways or something like that. And I was asking him about parking and he said, oh, there's parking. And somehow it came out that there were renters on the other side, like full-time renters on the other side. I'm like, how does Airbnb do this? Like it's not the entire place to ourselves.
The person doesn't disclose who's renting it. They're the liars. The owners are not disclosing that there are people on the property.
I know, but it's so many places. It comes up in so many filtered searches.
It does. I don't know what Airbnb.
It's like, can they just not keep up with it? It's not the entire place to yourself. I know VRBO has a whole campaign out right now, like a commercial campaign out right now where it says, if we say you're staying by yourself, you're staying by yourself. And I understand why they're marketing that.
Really?
Really. I see it during the football games.
I have not seen that, but I have to tell you, you're right, because a lot of reviews. So if you're on Airbnb and there's a place that you like and you're looking at the reviews and it's a shared space, the owner may not have disclosed it, but I'm telling you, one of the people that stayed there definitely did, because there have been plenty of places that I've looked at where I did put the filter, the entire place to myself. And then as I'm reading the reviews, they'll say, oh, well, they didn't tell us that, Harry is staying in the back room on the property or in the guest house on the property. And I'm like, oh, that's such BS. And so, so Airbnb,
that's what to bring it back to your original.
You're right. Airbnb is not catching because it's listed in the reviews. Yeah. People are complaining. And why those owners are allowed to rent it like that is Airbnb's fault, because they're not keeping up with their, the owners that are listing.
So to answer your earlier question, completely, that is like the third thing I look for when first I look for the price, obviously, then I look for the area and the photos and all that other stuff. And then the third thing I look for is like, am I sharing this house with somebody? Like,
I generally don't even look at that.
I have no interest in, I just want to, I shouldn't say I have no interest, because there have been, like the one we shared in West Seattle, like we picked that and I knew there was somebody upstairs.
Yeah.
So it's not like I didn't know that. That owner actually, as much as I was a little underwhelmed with the actual space, that owner was super responsive, and she's like, just let me know if, they're too loud. They have 2 little boys upstairs, and if they're too loud for you, let us know. And I'm like, well, they're like little kids. They're going to last until 10 or 11 o'clock, and then they'll, faint. And so, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Like, I'm not going to,
parents will.
Yeah. It's like, let the little kids have fun. It's fine. We were up anyway, but, all that, to say, if I'm going to stay in a shared space with somebody, however it's listed, I just hate the fact that you can list it as a separate space, but I just want to know ahead of time. So now it's like before I even book something, I'm just starting to ask, is this a shared space?
Oh, see, I never even thought about shared spaces. Honestly, like it doesn't pop up for me until someone writes it in the review. So for me, it's, it's price, it's area.
Yeah.
Usually for me, okay, here's how it goes. I pick a place that I like, I pick a city, and then I'll look in the area around it, and I'll start looking at how far it is from the city. I'll look at price. Then I go right to aesthetics. Like that's it for me. Like I will look at the furniture. That's it. I go from area to price to furniture. And if it looks cozy, then I go to reviews. And I don't even think about shared space until this trip. I have to tell you, because you're the one that clued me in on shared spaces. And, but still, I don't even look at shared space. If the furniture stinks, I'm not even considering it. So shared space for me it's like the bottom of my list.
I would say after I find out whether or not Lenny and his 4 kids are like right on the other side of the wall, I, immediately ask, like I've just in my intro, like I tend to not book them after this trip without asking the 3 questions. What's the parking situation? Is this a shared space? And what's the Wi-Fi speed? Like,
that's really
Wi-Fi
important
speed
for
is
you.
huge. Yeah,
that's
especially if I'm
important.
working. Like that was important on the Magnolia one, and we love that place in Utah, the Midvale Airbnb. But the Wi-Fi is really crappy there,
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
But what are you going to do?
So he has Wi-Fi.
Everything else about that space is amazing. It's like there's a park right down the street. I can walk to coffee. I can, like, everything is a win-win-win. The dog is fine there when she was there.
Yeah.
But the Wi-Fi, like you said, you can't get everything.
I know you can't. You have, your Wi-Fi. I have my furniture issues.
If you want to have everything, just stay home. Just keep your ass at home.
100%. It's like my girlfriend. I had this friend, and every time we would go to a restaurant, she would literally like pick the item apart. So if we even went to like, I don't know, like spaghetti, let's say we went to an Italian place. She's like, oh, is it like, what kind of oil is it cooked in? Can I have the sauce on the side? Is it gluten-free noodles? Literally at one point I looked at her and I said, just stay home next time. Like that's the same. So if you want to have everything on your trip, you're never going to have it. It just doesn't, it does not exist, but you can get close. So you have to just be willing to, give up a few other things. So for me, it's comfort. Comfort comes first.
Yeah. And I really didn't realize it. Like I was close to booking a place in LA, and you were like, let me see that. No, the couch is shitty. And I just, it never even dawned on me how traumatic Chicago was for you.
Are you kidding?
Until
that changed
we started looking at it. And then after the 6th couch that you threw away on Airbnb, looking at the LA properties, I was like, I handed you the laptop. I was like, here you go. I'll be in the kitchen. Let me know when
it actually wasn't even the Chicago trip that was so traumatic. Colorado started it. I literally emailed them and said, it is my fault. I saw the photos. It's very representative, but can you explain to me how you can rent a condo that sleeps 12, but only sits 3? And his answer was basically like, that's just what it is. And the truth was, it was the best condo, townhouse, whatever you want to call it, townhouse in that area that we stayed in. It was legitimately the best townhouse. So he was kind of like, take it or leave it. And I took it. And then
took it like a champ.
And then in Chicago,
we all took it as we sat we sat at the kitchen table.
Yep. And then in Chicago, it was the same thing. But I actually thought in Chicago, I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. But I thought in Chicago, we could move the downstairs. They had 2 couches, one downstairs and one upstairs. I thought, well, maybe we'll just move the downstairs couch upstairs. But I didn't dawn on me that the downstairs couch was a sleeper sofa. So no, we're not moving it. And we're on vacation. We're not moving it. So then Chicago was my fault, but Chicago's Airbnb was so bad, and I complained about it at every single day that I was there about something because it was disgusting and overpriced. They took it off the market. I've even checked because I want to leave a shitty review, and it's still, we're like 2 years in.
No way.
It's still off the market.
Really?
Yeah, because I wanted to leave a terrible review.
Do you think they just rented out to like, because they had, talk about shared spaces, they had like renters on the other side, didn't they? Like there, if you went off that back patio, you shared that space with somebody in the back house.
Maybe. If I had to do it all over again, I'd still have to stay at that Airbnb, which was not.
It was in a good area. I mean,
okay, so there you go. So you take the good with the bad. It was in an excellent area.
Yeah.
We walked everywhere. We walked to Wrigley Field. We walked to the cute little coffee shops, the cupcake shops, boutiques. So yeah. So what we gave up for in comfort, we gained again in aesthetics. So you're not going to have everything. Yeah. So it's been unfortunate that Airbnb has not lived up to what it first was.
Yeah. The luster's worn off, like I said.
For sure.
It's not the bright, shiny object it used to be. It used to be a thrill to like find a new place and book it and all that. But I just think the market's been so flooded. They're obviously understaffed, which is ridiculous considering the money they're making on fees, but whatever. They're just not policing it anymore like they used to.
Yeah,
they're just taking all the money. I know it's probably part of the business model to just take all the money, and when the complaints arise, then deal with them. Like the one guy that I booked with, remember I had to argue with him and like how to cancel my review. He's like, you just cancel it. You cancel it. And I'm like, I'm not canceling my reservation. Yeah. He said, well, the place isn't ready. Like the shower's out. I said, then why is it listed? And why do I have the ability to book right away? Which is what I did. A huge mistake that I also learned that I'll never do again. That was in Seattle.
Tell us what that means.
Like when it says, like a lot of Airbnb hosts or super hosts will have a switch hit where you can just book it right away. Like you can book immediately.
What's the benefit?
There's no benefit.
What's the benefit?
I don't think there's a benefit. I mean, the benefit's obviously for convenience. Like you don't have to go back and forth, or they don't have to approve your booking. Yeah, they don't have to approve your request. In this particular case, the guy had the thing on the market, had not blacked out the dates, had a problem with the shower. He's like, yeah, so whoever stayed here last week had a problem. I go, okay, well, it's Wednesday. I just booked it. Like you've had 3 days, 3 days to deal with this. It got terse. And long story short, Frankly, I had to get Airbnb involved. And in that case, they were great. I mean, they gave me my money back. They're like, yeah, this sounds like a bad situation. Sorry. And I had the money back within 24 hours. No big deal. But the point being, I think the business model is that they'll deal with situations like that one that I had, as opposed to, if somebody just leaves a review and says, oh, by the way, you're sharing this space, or it's not completely as advertised, that's not the same as canceling or calling Airbnb or messaging Airbnb in the app and saying, I really have a problem with this. You know what I mean? So they'll let all those little sort of misdemeanors go. And, it's not until something reaches felony level, basically, I'm using those words metaphorically, to where they'll say like, oh yeah, you're right, you should get your money back, but anyway, I wanted to ask you though, your favorite Airbnb of the entire trip?
I think Oklahoma City.
You liked Oklahoma City?
Well, the furnishings were incredible. It was something right out of a magazine. The bed was super comfortable. They didn't over furnish it, so you could like walk around. Yeah. I didn't cook in the kitchen, so I don't know how the kitchen was stocked, but it was an extremely comfortable Airbnb. My favorite though Airbnb of all time outside of this trip is Gig Harbor.
Oh, that was a great one.
That Airbnb had a kitchen stocked for a gourmet chef. We were greeted with a basket of goodies when we walked in. Yeah. The house looked like it had been designed by like a professional interior designer. The beds were comfy. there was nothing left.
You could
to
see the
chance.
harbor from the kitchen window too.
You could see the harbor from the kitchen window. The woman had an air fryer. She had a popcorn maker. I mean, she had a waffle maker. Like there was nothing that you would want. And the hair products, the skin products, like for the showers
The shower was amazing.
the shower was one of those rain showers. I mean, that was the best Airbnb I've ever stayed in.
And
thus
boy, did we
far.
need it, because it was our first venture out after the pandemic,
Yeah, so-
during the pandemic.
Yeah. So that was not on this adventure, but that was by far the
That's a good
best
one.
Airbnb I've ever stayed in. I would say on this trip though, for me, it was Oklahoma City. What was it for you?
Well, I agree with your all-time favorite, because that was just such an incredible trip, and it was sort of the precursor to Skiptown altogether.
It really was.
It was like the first test run, and it was a great trip, and a great Airbnb.
That was in 2020.
Mine was actually New Braunfels, because of the way it was decorated. It was super.
Gosh, it was so cool.
It was cosmopolitan cowboy. It was just so sweet on the inside, and they had that river in the back.
I know. I didn't like the fact I had to go up and down the stairs. It was in a building. So for me, decorations were great. The river was in the back, but had it been a house, that would have been up there. It was one of my tops, but it wasn't number one. It was maybe in the top 10.
It was number one for me.
Oh,
I love the
cool.
way everything was done. I thought they deserved to be super hosts. And I don't disagree that Oklahoma City was great. It was a great house, especially the yard.
Oklahoma City was not a super host. I don't think. They were just a regular Airbnb rental. But
Yeah.
Was New Braunfels
I think so.
super host?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There was no water.
They had a couple properties.
There was no water.
What do you mean there's no water?
There was no basket of goodies or water when we arrived. That's what
I know. I don't care about this shit.
I do.
I don't. I mean, well,
I want candy.
well, in that case, then the Corpus Christi Airbnb should be your top, because they had all the amenities.
They did. So that would be number 2, 100%. The only reason it wasn't number 1, the only reason, the space was small. That was it. It was just a tight space. That guy fit so much into that little space. It made it very convenient, but very hard to walk around. Like he had snacks. He had a little refrigerator. He had a little coffee maker. He had a beautiful TV. He had a huge bedroom set in a little tiny room. Everything was there. You could want for nothing. He had the most amazing Aveda products. That's what I talked about a little while ago.
Yeah.
But the space was so small, it made it very hard to get around. So for me, that was not number 1, but that was number 2.
Oh, okay. Well, my order is New Braunfels, Oklahoma City, and then Corpus Christi. So,
okay.
yeah.
So my order would be
the reason, one of the reasons I thought New Braunfels was so good was because we had come from Roswell.
mm-hmm.
We all know how that ended. And we had gone to Abilene, where we stayed in your corporate hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say your corporate.
I
I'm
know.
just everybody's
Yeah.
average
Yeah.
corporate hotel.
Right.
Wasn't your, we made that decision together.
Mhm.
Then we went to Waco and we stayed in that meh hotel, but we did a lot of cool things in the area.
Mhm.
And then we went to New Braunfels, and it was like, oh, like this place is like, we're back. It just felt like, okay, like we're back on track in terms of accommodation. So for me, it was visceral, like pulling all our stuff up there and staying. And I'm not selling you. I totally can see why you picked Oklahoma City or whatever, but for me, it was great. It was a great area to drive around in. I looked at all kinds of properties on Labor Day.
Yeah, you did.
got to hang back at the
for sure.
Airbnb.
I mean,
and the river was great. We had a little drink down by the river. It was cool. So that was, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying all those things after those 3 previous places in terms of accommodations,
Sure.
it was a huge win.
I agree with you on those 3 for sure. My order is different though.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like the Airbnb we stayed in West Seattle. I didn't care for the Airbnb in Kentucky. I didn't care for the Airbnb, obviously in Roswell. So, and when we weren't staying in Airbnbs, we were staying in hotels. So I would say, and the Airbnb that we booked in Panama, we had to cancel because we showed up and there were roaches.
Yeah.
So I would say that my top 3 are the same as your top 3. It's just a different order. So my first one was Oklahoma City. My second one was Corpus Christi. My third one was New Braunfels.
Yeah. But as you just listed them off, for the most part, I think we went 4 and 4.
I think you're
we're
right.
500, counting Midvale, counting Utah. counting Salt Lake City.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't put Salt Lake City in the top 3 just because.
No, but I'm saying in terms of like, we felt good about the Airbnb we were in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
4 out of 8 of them,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So going way back to episode 1, we had such high hopes.
We did.
We didn't exactly achieve them when it came to Airbnb.
We did not. Airbnb did us dirty.
Yeah, a little bit. Favorite hotel? Did you have one?
Yeah, definitely. The St. Edwards.
St. Edwards Lodge in Seattle.
It
was
north
like,
of Seattle.
Yeah, it was like being in the city without being in the city. We weren't even really in the city. It didn't feel like it. Okay. It was so removed.
I know this is going to sound crazy because I never we haven't talked about it much. And when we did talk about it, we were both like poo-pooing it. But I have to say, I really liked the hotel in Vancouver. Not because of the aesthetics, but the location was amazing. Was incredible. So the elevator took us right down into the farmer's market. Like, it was attached to the open air market at the bottom. And it was so easy to walk around, and even driving over the bridge was easy, just everything about it. So that really is like in my top 5. No question about it.
Wow. I mean,
because the location was incredible.
I could see that. Yeah. I mean,
it was a rundown hotel.
They need to clean those rooms and upgrade them and all that.
It was a rundown hotel, but the location made up for it. So that would definitely be in my top 5.
Huh. Yeah. God, I forgot all about that. My favorite hotel, I agree with you, is St. Edwards. Although for me, Art House way back in Santa Rosa was a close number 2. I've never been in a hotel room that size for $250.
It was huge.
There's no way. I mean, you could play racquetball in that place.
Okay. So if right now you could go back to any of the Airbnbs we stayed in, where would you go? Airbnbs right now, if you could go back.
I would go back to Oklahoma City.
Okay. If you could go back to any hotel, which would it be?
If I could go, I would be St. Edwards. No doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. You?
It's funny. You said Oklahoma City, but New Braunfels was your number 1.
If I could go back right now, I would be, and it's no secret, like, I really liked the surrounding areas of Oklahoma City. So I would go back to that Oklahoma City Airbnb, and I would be searching for property every single day.
But I'm talking more about like,
if you're talking about just comfort and Airbnb,
and aesthetics and all that.
I would definitely go back to New Braunfels.
Okay,
it's still
so
my
that's your number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. And for me, it would be, I think, Oklahoma City.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's my number 1, so I would go back to it. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. So what was your overall takeaway? I mean, you did say that Airbnb, we had big high hopes, and it did us dirty. How did you feel about the hotels? Did you feel like they were pretty consistent? Like, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there were days where we got a little lazy and we just knew we could have a residence inn nearby, and like we were a little road weary at times. And so, like we said way back when on Leanne's podcast, when we were on it, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think there were a couple of stretches there where we were a little punch drunk, and we were like, screw it, just book the,
it is true, because I
hotel.
remember we were in a few cities, and I said to you, why don't we stay at this cool hotel? And you're like, because this room is big and we know what we're getting. And I was like, that's true. But you're right.
And the dog. I mean, honestly, if you're going to be an empty nester and travel the country,
with a dog,
just know it's going to be a different wrinkle with a pet. And it's great that you're all together and everything, but it does limit your choices. Like I said, there were plenty of places that, she and I could have stayed in, I don't know, some little trendy place in the middle of wherever. But if they don't take a pet, they don't take a pet. And now all of a sudden, you're like, we can rent this Airbnb for $350 a night, or we could just go to the Residence Inn for $179, and the room is super clean. It's got a kitchenette, and we didn't do a lot of cooking. So like, we keep bringing up kitchenettes. We didn't do any of the cooking we said we were going to do.
It's true. We did not.
Like, very rare. We made like 3 meals the entire,
I know.
It's
true.
So
when we'll do an episode about food, because people have asked us a lot about food.
Yeah.
But I want to just mention really quick. So early on in the trip, it was very challenging with Roxy, because she just wasn't going to the bathroom. Like she knew she wasn't home. It's just, she's like any human. Like when you're
Yeah.
on vacation, you can't go. She thought she was on vacation and she just couldn't go.
Truth.
So, so it was very challenging. I remember I reached out to our friends, Mimi and Matt, who are big travelers, and they take their dog everywhere with them. And I asked her, I said, Mimi, we're really having a problem like with Roxy. Like, what do you do when you're on the road? And she said, well, you have to remember, like, we have an RV and we park at like, these like campsites that have, rolling acres of grass.
Tons of nature for the dog to do their business.
And she's like, so we don't have the same challenge. And she said, if we go out on an adventure, Matt and I, we leave the air conditioner on and, we leave the dog in the RV with the air. The dog's happy as can be because anytime we went on an adventure and we left the dog in the hotel room, we were always just praying like there's not a big poo-poo when we get back. And so, and we got very lucky. There usually wasn't, but it was always a worry. So with that being said, if you're going to be like us and you're going to do traveling with Airbnb or hotels and you're going to have a dog, like he said, it's going to be hard.
You might want to consider the RV route. It wasn't for us. It's still not for us, despite having the dog and, whatever incidents or issues we have with bringing along a dog. But Mimi and Matt were onto something. I mean, the dog was in a place where it felt comfortable, recognized that this is our space.
Yeah.
Our dog didn't have that. Like for the first 12 days of our trip, she was so confused. Like
I know.
A doggy who's been in her own yard for 12 years now all of a sudden is, and so, but
like 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, she is 12. We did we had the house longer, but you're right. She's 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ever since we got her and, now all of a sudden, she's in all these different spaces. She's an old lady, but she's, she's here with us now. She made the trip. She's happy as a lark. I mean,
she is. So, so this is our Airbnb versus hotel, edition. And, hopefully you found it helpful. I mean, we learned a lot along the way, and I hope that we were able to share our misses and some of our hits with you.
Yeah, the misses especially. It's like we told you early on that this trip was going to be equal parts inspiration and equal parts parable for you. It's like we want you to learn from our mistakes. We hope we shared enough of them in this one, what not to do. It could be said that I took a lot of misses in the Airbnb department just because I tend to do things last minute and I book on the fly. I don't know. I won some, I lost some. You know what I mean?
Whatever. I didn't feel like you took a lot of. Look, I think it's equal.
I'd say 3 out of our 4 misses were mine. So I think percentage. I know,
but I had really bad fails in restaurants. And, that's painful too. So it's fine. We didn't get bed bugs. So let's just, keep it at that.
And you only got watched once.
Maybe twice. Who knows?
Maybe twice.
But so if you have any questions about where we stayed, the exact locations, if you're interested in staying, please email us, send us a message through Instagram. We're more than happy to share with you our exact locations of the Airbnbs and the hotels that we stayed in on our adventure. So I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think so. And if we missed something, like she said, just let us know. You know where to find us. And please, if you could, when you are in search of a virtual mail service, something to handle your mail while you're skipping town, head on over to skiptownallstars.com/anytime. Anytime Mailbox is our first corporate affiliate partnership. If you click through to that, you can find out all sorts of information about handling your mail. I love it. It feels like, I have a personal assistant in my pocket. It hasn't been easy dealing with the red tape of, 3 kids in 3 different states, or the sale of a house, or the, ensuing paperwork on literally everything legalese in our lives. But Anytime Mailbox has been a godsend for me in that regard.
It's a constant, and that you're going to get an email from them.
Yeah.
You're going to get, contact and what you have in the mailbox, and you don't have to worry about it at all. It's just like one less thing to worry about.
It really is. They scan the piece of mail that comes in every single time. So you could look at the envelope and you can decide what to do with it. You want to shred it, you want to recycle it, you want to forward it, or maybe you're just sort of curious and you're not so worried about privacy issues on that particular article of mail. You can have them open it and scan it for you. So you can then, like I do, tell them to just throw it away. So
Anytime mailbox.
anytime mailbox it is. So that wraps up this episode. Great topic. Nice work.
Oh, thank you. All right, you can take us out.
Empty nest.
Full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.